Welcome to Unlock Your Soul with yours truly, Anthony Your Soul. This is a space where we get to scratch beneath the surface and find out what really makes us human. Today, I am with a gentleman who, a couple of years back, way before COVID and stuff, he Googled me online and then got me to, and as we do that, someone here needs to get some work. Can you, Arpan, can you, okay, let's just give it to, yeah. Sorry guys, I was giving somebody the phone to record this intro so that this guy can remember how I met him. So I met Ziyaan a couple of years back, 5 or 6 years ago, when COVID wasn't even in the horizon, and he Googled me and called me to his school to go and perform in the school, and he told me all about this amazing initiative that he was handling about menstrual health and menstrual hygiene. I mean, it was like, what? This young boy doing all these great things. And then I got to meet the guy and I really understood that it wasn't just smokes and mirrors or hype. He really is the real deal. So today I'm so honored to have the man, the boy who became the man from the days of Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa, to now having his own startup. I mean, all the way in Canada, in one of the world's biggest economies. I mean, my goodness, how times change. From a boy to a man, the one and only Ziyaan Virji is in the house.
Thank you.
Has anybody ever given you such an introduction?
Nah, this one's special.
Yeah, I feel like you need to have your rider. Everybody who interviews you needs to say all those things.
It's facts.
From a boy to a man. So let's start off with, first, you are back in Kenya. Karibu Kenya.
Asante sana.
Since you left school, you didn't leave school. Since you cleared school,
yes sir.
And then we went to uni. And I see you still have those Akam behaviors of always calling me sir. Why do you like calling me sir?
Because you're a sir, man.
Oh God, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Sir.
By the way, speaking of which, is it like something that was ingrained in you in school at Akam that you?
Yeah, I feel like it's just like for respect, like it's a Mr. or like sir.
I find that so nice. Because I mean, I saw kids from your school could honestly behave the way they wanted to. I mean, you have kids who have come from rich backgrounds or whatever, but they're always very respectable and respectful. So let's go back to growing up in Tanzania and being Ismaili. Is that how you say it? So tell me more about growing up in Tanzania, how you ended up at AKAM, which is Aga Khan Academy of Mombasa. How did that happen?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast.
You're very welcome.
Extremely honored to have my soul unlocked.
Yes, it's time, man.
But yeah, I mean, my story started when just growing up. So I was born and raised in Tanzania, and I grew up as an Ismaili Muslim, and I was really ingrained in my community. And one of the values that we had growing up, and I was told from a very early age that as a person, you always have a responsibility to give back and values of service. And so from a very early age, my parents involved me in every opportunity to serve, be it in the community. We would, have to bring water for the senior citizens or arrange the shoes in the mosque or serve food during our events. So from things like that to, being in scouts, for example, so Cubs and scouts, and we would be taught how to camp and how to go into different communities and do different kind of projects. And so that was ingrained in me from a very early age. Yeah. And that value of giving back, I think, was extremely powerful just in my family, in my religion. Yeah. But as I started growing up until I was 15, I slowly started losing that, and doing some of these things was more about because my friends are doing it. It was more of like a social thing versus actually doing it for the real reason, right? I was still young, so didn't really understand the importance of doing this. Yeah. And then I had the incredible opportunity to move to Mombasa at the Aga Khan Academy. So the Aga Khan Academy is part of the Aga Khan Development Network, which was started by His Highness the Aga Khan. And the whole idea of the school is to provide quality education for people in countries that don't have access to the best education. And so we were, learning, having IB level education. But the real part of the school is they really teach you different kind of values. And so leadership, service, starting your own projects. It was more than just going to class. It was more so as a person, as a holistic person. How are you growing as an individual, and it was a boarding school. And so as part of my time there, I had gone there for my first year. And unfortunately, actually on the last day of school, there was a dengue fever outbreak in Mombasa.
Yeah.
And
By
so-
the way, tell us about that. First, what is dengue fever? Like, what happens? What happens to your body? I want to know all that.
Yeah, so dengue fever is it's caused by, it's just any other virus. So it's like, think of it as like malaria but 10x malaria. So what it does is, if you get the virus actually kills your platelets.
Wow.
And your platelets are what create your white blood cells. Your white blood cells protect your body.
Your
right?
antibodies, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so on the last day of school, I got dengue fever. And you know, our healthcare system, they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And because it was the last day of school, I had to travel back with it to Tanzania.
Wow.
So
you out here.
Yeah.
Is it communicable or is it non-communicable?
No, non-communicable.
Oh, I thought you were out here like
giving it
to everyone in the airport.
It's not like COVID. It's not like
Yeah.
COVID. But I traveled with it 10 hours on the bus, Talmeed bus. I took it to Dar.
Wow.
And then it took doctors 1 week in Tanzania to figure out it was dengue fever. They kept saying it was infection, malaria. They kept saying different things.
Because it's an outbreak. I mean, it's always more difficult.
Exactly. And the outbreak was only in Mombasa. It wasn't in Dar. So they didn't know that what it was still.
Yeah. Did that sort of I mean, I know you've dealt with a lot of like health systems and health issues and health advocacy, but was that surprising to you or sort of disappointing that you could actually die?
Yeah.
Because people don't even know whether it's in Mombasa where the systems are completely overloaded, or in Tanzania where it's taking them a while to understand like what's really happening.
Exactly.
Does that sort of ignite something in you where you're like, hold up, I could die because people don't even know what is going on with me? And then also imagine those who cannot access healthcare.
Exactly. So what happened was, I got this fever, and then on the morning of Eid, they admitted me into the hospital.
Wow.
And dengue fever at the time didn't have any medication. So all they do is they just regulate your platelets, and they give you all this medicine. So I was admitted for a week, and then from the point of getting discharged, eventually I recovered. But from the point of getting discharged up to the next 3 weeks, I went into this phase where I had no control over myself. And I don't share this story a lot, but obviously you're here, so I'm going to share it with you.
I didn't even know this.
So I went into this phase where, again, I had no control of myself and I was acting hypersexual and hyperactive. And so some of the things I did, apparently I was going to the mosque. So I have no recollection, but I was going to the mosque, and during prayers I stood up and started singing and shouting.
Wow.
I was hypersexual, so every time I saw a girl, even if I don't know them, I just go up and start hugging them. And that continued for a period of 3 weeks.
Wow.
And then 3 weeks.
because this is one of the sort of side effects. I mean, literally, is that people really, your mental capacity to be able to think and do things in the right way.
Exactly. So 3 weeks later, I wake up on my bed, and I check the date on my calendar, and I'm like, yo, why is the date on my calendar wrong? The last thing I remember, which felt like yesterday, was,
it was
3
like
weeks
3 weeks ago.
Exactly. So I'm waking up and I'm seeing the date, and it's like, oh, what? Like, I thought my phone is wrong and it's acting up. So I'm going to fix my calendar.
Wow.
And then I go on social media, I'm saying, oh, something's not adding up. So I call my parents. They rush back home, and their first reaction when they ask them, why is my date wrong on my phone? They're like, they were relieved, and they were like, okay, he's finally
he's coming to
he's coming to his conscious state of mind, right? And so then they started explaining to me that I went through this whole experience and this and this, and it took me around a period of 1 to 2 weeks to figure out what actually was going on, because everyone was saying something different. The doctors for dengue were saying that affected my brain. We went to a psychologist, and she misdiagnosed me at the time with bipolar disorder, and said I went through a manic episode for 3 weeks. We went to, my parents are religious, so we went to the Muslim sheikhs, and they said I was possessed, and they kept reading the Quran to
like
me.
a genie or something.
Exactly. And I went to a Reiki master, and she said one of my chakras were misaligned and a negative entity passed through me. And so everyone had a different theory, and I didn't know what to believe.
Hold up. When you're going through all of this, I mean, maybe when you look at it later, it feels like a phase of your life. But how does a young person like yourself get out of such a really monumental time in their life, where if not for anything, you would probably have not gotten out.
Exactly.
Because then, what if this, as I call manic episode, what if you actually ended up dying by suicide? I mean, there's so much that could have happened that would not be having this conversation with you today.
Exactly.
You'd have probably maimed yourself for life, disabled yourself. I mean, so many things have happened. But when you look back as someone who's as passionate as you are, what does that make you feel, think? Like, these people didn't know jack all about treating me. Like, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, exactly. At the time, I think it was just everyone had a different theory.
Yeah.
And everyone around me, because there were a lot of situations where, as you said, I could have lost my life, or I could have done something extremely.
I mean, or people could have
been taken to jail,
been beaten up in the streets.
So many different things, right? But as I was going through all of that, I think after that period of 2 weeks when I started finally, joining the dots, I was like, okay, I felt like it was some sort of wake up call, and it was some sort of like, shit, I had to go through this in order for me to open my eyes to a bigger picture, right? And so, I also felt like, I don't know, it felt like it was meant to happen this way for some reason, and so it was really weird. But as I started recovering, my parents didn't want to send me back to school because I was like, oh, if something happens again, who's gonna take care of you? But I somehow convinced them, and I went back to school, and I realized I came so close to going through an experience of maybe death, maybe something else, that this is a wake up and this is a second chance.
So when this happens to you, I mean, do you then, does it alter your life sort of purpose, belief, and thinking? Because when such really huge monumental things happen to people, whether it's an accident, whether it's a chance meeting, whether it's a dream event, sometimes something as minute as a light bulb moment, you realize, you know what, maybe I need to be kinder to people, maybe I need to give more, maybe all these things I hold dear to me are so useless. What does that do to you now as a human being and as this young kid who, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but who might sort of be experiencing a bit of privilege and then realizes, oh my God, all this was about to be taken away. And by people whose job was to find out what's the problem, who just couldn't find the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So the two reflections I had was, one, now that I'm able to look back, is one, because I didn't have any control over myself for 3 weeks, I wanted to have control of everything in my life moving forward. And the second thing was, it made me realize that I was put into this world for a bigger purpose than myself. And the reason why I overcame the situation was because up to that point in my life, I hadn't fulfilled that purpose. And so everything moving forward would be working towards that purpose. And so I go back to school, and it was coincidental now looking back if you connect the dots, but I had an opportunity to start up a school project. In grade 9 and 10, you're meant to do a project, and I could do anything of my choice. And as I was going through my ideation session, I was scrolling through Facebook actually, and I watched this documentary on Al Jazeera named India's Menstruation, man. Now, being a 15-year-old boy at the time, I never learned about periods or menstruation. As you know, in our context, there's not something as boys we talk about, right? And so first time watching this documentary, and I was so surprised at finding out, that so many people around the world are going through this issue of not having access to products. And so I have a conversation with my mom about it, and she told me that when she was younger, she didn't have proper access to products when she grew up in a single parent household. And there was a point where she couldn't afford these products, and she used old blanket and old cloths, which was, unsanitary, unhygienic, and uncomfortable. And so I'm like, I just watched this documentary. I am having this conversation with my mom. I need to do something about this. I go online, I do my research, and I see the stats, and it says 500 million menstruators around the world don't have access. In Africa, an average of 1 in 10 menstruators don't have access. I think in East Africa, it was like 65% of the menstruators. And I'm like, these numbers are out there, but no one's doing anything about it. And why is it such a big issue? But I've never heard about it in my whole life.
The thing was, last week we were talking about with with your very, very good friend, whose name I don't want to mess up, Vedanshi, which is, we are obsessed with numbers.
Exactly.
We love to talk about numbers. We like, the government, institutions, and all these people like to say, 65% of school-going kids. And I'm like, this is a minister of education telling us this. Tell us, what are you going to do to bring it to 23? Like, if you don't bring it to 20%, you should resign, But no, they just want to give us big numbers. So they want to be they want to simplify the mathematics without doing anything.
Exactly.
And here you as a 15-year-old bothered by the numbers, and you're like, I want to do something about it.
And so I see these numbers online, and my first instinct was I got to do research on potential solutions out there. And so I see all these solutions: disposable pads, tampons, menstrual cups, and then I saw reusable menstrual products, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. Something I've not seen a lot, and it's also innovative and it's sustainable, which I thought really stood out to me. And so I go online, see all the different prototypes, and my first instinct was I gotta make a product of my own. It's that entrepreneurial spirit coming out, right? And so I worked with a local tailor, learned how to stitch. They came up with all the designs, and tested, iterated, went through that whole process, and eventually came with a product that will last for 6 months. And I was able to distribute it in my community in Moshi in Tanzania. I was able to support 22 menstruators there. That marked the end of my school project. I presented about it. I called it the iPad at the time because like pad.
Okay,
and it was,
get it.
Individual that called the iPad.
That's young. That's fresh.
And I put a picture right next to Steve Jobs presenting his iPad.
And when you the beauty about it is, I mean, it could be misconstrued by other people, but that when you're young and you have the intention, do it. Don't let anybody tell you, oh no, this sounds wrong. This is politically incorrect. Do it. Learn as you go.
And so I presented about it and so forth, and I could have really ended at that point. I got a good grade for my project. But then I went back to that community and I talked to them and I was like, what did you think of this? And there were a couple of realizations after having a conversation with them that I learned. One, that I actually contributed more to the problem than solving it. In the sense that after the 6 months of this product that will last, after those 6 months, these menstruators will go back to their same old methods. And in reality, I just created like this dependency syndrome where they keep depending on someone else to come and help them. And so I didn't really solve the root cause of the problem. Second realization I had is I spent 1 year working on this, and there were 500 million people out there that still don't have access to this product. I grew a passion for this topic and I wanted to do something about this. And so I go back to school. I started up a small team. We're around 7 to 10 volunteers at the time. And we changed two main things. One, we changed our product. And so now our product lasts 3 years, 100% biodegradable, extremely cost effective and embarrassment free. The good thing about that is we worked with a local group of women with disabilities to actually redesign this product. And we learned so much from them, and they were gaining employment from actually making this product. The second thing we changed was the approach that we had. And so now, instead of just going to a community and distributing products and taking a bunch of pictures, we'll go in there, we'll spend time with them, understand their context, build a relationship with them, and then have an educational workshop where we'll teach both boys and girls about this topic, because usually it's not part of a school curriculum. But then what we'll also do is we'll give them the product and teach them how to use, wash, and make their own. Now the good thing about this is this whole idea of don't give a man a fish, teach them how to fish.
Teach them how to fish.
And so when you do that, you're really planting a seed and empowering the community to help themselves. So that I know after the 3 years that the product will last, they will be self-sustainable, right? And they won't depend on someone else to come and help them. And then we end with a celebration and review phase where we assess the impact of our work. It's been what, 6 years now since we made that iteration, and I've been so privileged to have the opportunity. This school project that I'm talking about has now helped over 20,000 people in 10 countries around the world. And we have an amazing team of 150 plus volunteers, young people in their own communities helping.
20,000 people seems like just a number. You know, I mean, people normally equate these numbers to like money. Like, you know, it's, oh, I could access that or whatever. But it's the cyclical effect that it has on homes, on communities, on a human being. And I think what's important is, what I've realized is from last week to now with you and to next week with Arpan is the concept of bringing this back home to the human being. That numbers are amazing, touching lives is great, but even if it's 3 people, 20,000 is 20,000 people who now can stay in class, who now can focus more in the activities, who now can be able to dream more, think more, visualize more, because somebody has allowed them to at least remove some burden from them. So I feel like we normally say these numbers and move like it's a small thing, but I mean, I also want to commend you, because that's not a small deal at all. And it might be 20,000 to you, but it might be 100K to the community at home, because of the number of people whose lives didn't stop because of one situation in their life, which is normal for every menstruating girl, lady and woman of age. So it's really, really important that we remind ourselves that what you did wasn't a small feat, and what you're still doing, and I think it's phenomenal. I know you have a plan to reach 1 million people around the world. I mean, are you still on course? Is this still the vision, the dream? And if so, how are you going about it?
So, thinking back about going back to the story of me almost, going through the experience of dengue fever and almost potentially losing my life, right? I think now looking back, I'm able to say that this going on this path, and it's crazy when you look back and connect the dots, but it's really put me on this journey of thinking about my purpose and thinking about how is it that I can contribute on scale on this world. And the reason why I went through that experience was I feel like there was seed planted in me, and I have now this responsibility. It wasn't in vain. Exactly. And so in terms of the project, and even just touching on your point, we talked about this 20,000 people, but each one of these people has a story, right? And so we have worked with everyone from, women in prisons to sex workers to refugees that were escaping the war in Ukraine to earthquake victims in Turkey to people in North America, in Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, all these different kind of people. And they all have a unique story, and the fact that we're able to come up with a solution that caters for that, I think, has definitely been something I feel so privileged about. And then going back to your question on what the plan is moving forward, I think going through this experience and working on this topic in the nonprofit world has definitely opened my eyes to a lot of systemic issues. And I think if I really want to solve this issue or any other issue, there's a lot of systems change that need to happen, right? And so when I work with all these nonprofits in this space, I realized that all of them were struggling with sustainable sources of funding. And nonprofits are so dependent on external people to come and support them for them to be able to do the work they're doing. I also realized, and I came up with my own theory of change, that in order for you to make a systemic level change, you gotta involve everyone in an economy. You gotta involve media. You gotta involve government. You gotta involve nonprofits. You gotta involve young people. You gotta involve businesses, right? And I realized that you're not able to make change in a vacuum. We gotta involve all these people, and that is what led me to what I'm working right now. And so currently, I went to Canada and had all this exposure. Got to work with all these different nonprofits in climate, health, poverty, education, and came up to this realization of sustainable source of funding. And I'm like, how can I use now business and technology to solve this issue and really create that systems level change? And so currently I'm the co-founder and chief impact officer of a company called GreenApple Gives. And primarily
GreenApple what?
GreenApple Gives.
I keep trying to make that joke. So I didn't want you to continue the story. They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
We say we're not doing the joke.
So I'm trying to look for that joke. It's refusing. I'm not
It's not connecting.
It's not connecting. But here you decide, no. I am going to keep doctors out of business by having an initiative that is all about apples. So what is it about? Let's now go back to the story.
So
flat joke.
That
joke.
GreenApple Gives is a platform that works with these nonprofits, and it works towards empowering these nonprofits and their existing donor base, and empowering them through spare change roundups and cashback rewards. And so what it does is we're really trying to envision a world in which with every transaction that you do, because the way the platform works is you link your credit card, you set your donation settings, and then with every transaction that you can do, you can round up. And if you shop at any of our business partners, you get cashback rewards that you can decide to donate. And we're envisioning a world that with each transaction, we can make a kinder place. And so what we're really seeing happening on our platform is you have a local business, you have a local non-profit, or let's say a food bank,
Yeah.
and you have someone local in your community,
Yeah.
let's say here in Nairobi,
Yeah.
and when people interact on our platform, everyone's benefiting from every transaction that's made.
Okay.
And we're creating this hyper local economy where it's like a win-win-win situation.
So let's like bring it down now to a more local like explanation, because I mean what you're doing is, I mean, it's phenomenal. It's like, I feel like it didn't have to take you to do it, or
Yeah.
you and your co-founder. I feel like some of the thing is, and and what Vedanshi said last week, I feel some of these things, like your business sort of model shouldn't exist, because we should be doing this already.
Anyways,
like,
yeah.
The MasterCards and the Visas
Yeah.
and iPads,
Yeah.
and should be
Yeah.
out here every time they launch a new iPad.
They should give back. Yeah.
They should give back to all the girls who can't get their pads
Yeah.
or whatever. The idea that you're doing this, and like we said, let's localize it now. Let's bring it here. So we are at Nairobi Street Kitchen, for example. So when I pay for a meal, you're saying that if a meal is 3,000 Kenya shillings, and
let me explain.
Yeah,
So let's
explain
say
it.
you just bought this hot chocolate right now, right?
Okay, yes.
Let's say you spent 240 bob for this,
Okay,
right?
okay.
You have used your DTB Visa card to pay for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me, Loki, shouting out DTB here.
Me, I'm a Stanbic boy, but I'm allowing you.
So let's say you spend 240 on this thing, right?
Yeah.
You have tapped your Visa card, and it's and you use our platform because you already linked your card there, right? What our platform does is you have set your settings to I'm gonna round out to the nearest 100.
Okay.
So with this 240 shillings purchase, you would round up to 300. And 60 shillings will go for the Menstruator.
Okay.
And the good thing is it all happens on the cloud, so you won't even realize it. And this happens with every transaction until you set your goal. Let's say every month you want to donate 10,000 shillings.
Yeah.
This will keep happening with every transaction.
Okay.
And
So
then at the end of
you fuel 1,800 shillings. 200 bob goes
Exactly.
to. I mean, it also makes you very intentional when you actually spend money.
Exactly.
Because I mean, you could easily forget that you've been doing it.
Yeah.
But then you always tell yourself, I want to pay a bit more for what I'm about to buy.
Exactly.
So that it can be rounded off to the nearest.
Exactly. And it's just rounded up. It's just round up your spare change, right?
Yeah.
It's just the change that you may
And
probably not even use.
this could be everything, including banks.
Exactly.
It could go all the way to like banks in terms of the expenditure, in terms of their profit and loss
Exactly.
accounts, and they say if we make a profit of 1 billion shillings this year, we're gonna donate the next.
Exactly.
If it's 1.1 billion, it means that 900 million is gonna go back.
Exactly.
Into. So I mean, it's very intentional.
Exactly. And we're really creating now this hyper local economy where it's like everyone's winning from everything that you do. And so you having a good time Nairobi Street Kitchen on a Thursday, you're not gonna feel bad for doing that, because even with that you're giving back, right? And you're really then connecting those dots and that bridge between those that have and those that don't have, right?
And a huge, for me here, also the idea of giving comes a lot of times a lot of doubt, but when you know someone like Nairobi Street Kitchen or I mean some other conglomerate or whatever, they're part of this whole project, it means that it's really lending a voice to that initiative. So I know that NSK, for example, would never be a part of an organization which is fleecing people's money. So it's very believable.
Exactly.
And you don't have to go around shopping for people to help.
And you would want to go spend your money at Nairobi Street Kitchen because you know they're gonna be doing that.
Thank you.
And so everyone's winning in this situation.
And the question here is, then why aren't we doing more of this? Why is it taking a 12-year-old like you, a 12-year-old looking man like you, to do this? Why?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, as we talk about systems, right? And unfortunately, our systems, we're so used to doing things the old way. And, but I'm very hopeful. I think we're moving towards the right direction. And the currency of success is progress, right? And so even us having this conversation right now is us making progress.
Wait, hold up. You just threw in deep words and then you want to pretend like you didn't say. You said the currency of success is what?
Progress.
Hello. I know. I saw you holding your phone. I'm 100% sure that Vedanshi sent you those. She sent you that line. I've never had you be so deep. So Vedanshi, wherever you are, thank you for making this man look smart, look and sound smart. So, but also as you say, What did you say about currency's progress?
I said the currency of success is progress, and so us even having this conversation right now is progress on its own, right?
Yeah.
And, it definitely, it's a step at a time, and we're on the journey towards doing that. And going back to purpose and talking about me going through that experience, me doing this right now is me working towards my purpose, and I believe I'm on a very ambitious mission to one day hopefully help 1 billion people around the world.
Wow.
And maybe this will help me get there, and I'm sure there's way more stuff down the line that I'll get to experience.
Before we go into what the plan is in the future for you in terms of some of your, what you visualize that you're planning to do, let's go back a little bit to your parents. I mean, I've realized one of the things about you and Vedanchi are my youngest guests so far. One of the things I've realized, which for me comes out very naturally, is how important it is for you and how your parents have played a huge pivotal role in who you've become.
I definitely
as Ziyaan.
Yeah, I definitely shout them out. I feel like they made a lot of sacrifices for me to even get to this point, right? Like, my parents made a lot of sacrifices to move to East Africa from India for a better livelihood. My dad got a job when he was my age and had to move across the world, and got married to my mom, who was pretty young, and they've worked like full-time jobs, hours in the office to grind it out for me to get these opportunities. And I think most importantly, in terms of their parenting style, they've really allowed me to get these opportunities and always supported me throughout that process, and that value of service and giving back. And even going back to my religious community, being an Ismaili Muslim, I feel like, those values of just service and giving back was definitely ingrained in me, and I'm definitely grateful for it. And again, I wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for the support of so many people. So for example, you coming and flying out all the way to Mombasa, and using your platform to really give a platform to a 17-year-old boy that was doing a project, that's something that's not common, right? And so it's people like you and people like my parents and people in my community that have really used whatever they had to open doors for me and make this possible, and that's something I'm definitely grateful for. Yeah,
but also, I mean, my interaction with you the first time when you emailed me and told me, I mean, you wrote a whole email. I was so sure, I was like, this teacher must be a handful. This email is so long. I mean, you emailed me and told me about Hi Anto. We've seen some of the work you do, and we'd really love to have you at Aga Khan Academy, Mombasa. And then you explain, and I'm like, this guy is saying he's a student, but I feel like it's a teacher who wrote the email. Only for you guys to pay for the flights, and then for me to end up in your school and to really see the work that you were doing. I got to visit the ladies and the differently abled ladies who are the ones who are making the pads. I got to visit schools where you guys were supporting. I mean, it was a bit surreal for me, because you always feel like kids need to be a part of kid-like initiatives. Like you guys need probably to come to a school for some landscaping thingy, or like a musical. You guys have some songs to present to us, and it's clap for you guys, and you'll be a good singer. But in my heart, I'm like, oh my God, this child should never sing again. But they're a child, let them sing. But you were doing such phenomenal stuff that I felt like, for me, I really had to be a part of, and it was quite eye-opening. And it also, the thing is, when you're older, like myself, you then ask yourself, if he can do it, then what's stopping me from supporting him? Because he's already doing what I should be doing.
Exactly,
So again, now when we look to the future, so once again, before I sort of drive off that point, is good job. I mean, you've always been such a kind kid. You've always been respectful. You've always been who you are. And even when I meet you, even I've now in touch with you since you came back to Nairobi. We've been having conversations where I'm telling you, I don't want you to change. I want you to continue being silly, in the sense that, asking questions and wanting to know, what does this do? And I saw you doing this. What does it mean? I saw you working in this organization, because that childlike attitude is what gets you far. It allows you to constantly be a sponge
and grow
and take in things where you feel like, I know everything now, So it's good to stay childlike. So be like a child. But not forever.
It's definitely something I fear, like how, yes, having some definition of success, it looks like, I've had all these opportunities, and now I feel like the bar is only set higher for what that next thing is. Right? And so for me, I always reflect on how I need to make sure I'm not complacent. And all these opportunities I've got, how do I continue to use it to amplify and move forward and make progress, as we talked about, right?
I love it.
It's one of my fears, going from rags to riches, but also riches to rags, right? It's something I always think about, but it's also, that's what energizes me and keeps pushing me to do more and make progress.
They say fear is false evidence appearing real. So all you gotta do is remember that you're the one who's creating all this evidence and making a case in a court of law. That is what happened, and you're the one, and then the court is thinking there is no case here. You're thinking all these things. So I hope that you get to huddle over all your fears. As we conclude, tell me about what you think your family will look like based on how you've been raised. Because your mom asked me to ask you this question.
Okay.
Like, how does your family look like? Like, are you gonna have like 19 children running around the house? What do you want your kids to believe in? How do you want them to be raised? I mean, it's always nice sometimes to picture that. Just so we can tell ourselves, wow, this is how I think.
I think there's a couple things. If I had kids, the certain principles I try to really embody into them. So one, I've always believed in this idea of the energies and the purpose, not the plan, right? And I know we have dropped this
energies and the purpose, not the plan. another one by Ziyaan.
And so just this idea of really focusing on purpose and reflecting that on an early age. I don't want anyone to go through an experience that I went through in order for them to wake up or in order for them to have that light bulb moment. Maybe listening to this conversation could be that moment for them. And so really focusing on purpose, and once you figure that out, the plan, everything will just work out and magic just happens, right? I think the second thing is, my grade 3 teacher always used to tell me that tomorrow never comes. And that she used to tell me that when I used to submit my homework late, because I used to be like, I'll submit it tomorrow. Like, tomorrow never comes. But that really stuck with me, because now I believe that if you have an idea or you have a passion or there's something that you want to do, you don't have to wait until tomorrow. You have to start today. And as young people, if there's a young person listening to this, we're often referred to as leaders of tomorrow. But I truly believe we're not only leaders of tomorrow, but we're leaders of today. And so if you have an idea, you have a passion, or want to start something, you start today at this moment, because tomorrow will never come. And the last thing is just just really focusing on privilege and giving back and service. And most recently, I've embraced this idea of planting seeds, right? With every conversation, just think about, how is it that you can plant a seed in someone's life? How is it that you can open a door for them? How is it that you can give back? Because once you plant seeds, and plant all these different seeds with the right nurturing and the right moments, these seeds can grow and become gardens and flowers and fruits, right? And when it returns in tenfold, and you won't even realize it.
Awesome. I hope that you find your flower so you can pollinate and get us this bouquet of kids and a family. And I hope that was the cheesiest thing I've ever said. But I mean, that was beautiful. Thank you, Ziyaan, for your time. Thank you for coming back to retrace your roots, with your former school, and and just always being ready to amplify not only your voice, but also, I mean, I've met Arpan, and I've also met your very, very good friend Vedanshi through you, and now I know all the great work that they're doing thanks to you really shouting them out and really hyping them up as if it was your own project. So I think your kids are in safe hands.
For sure. No, thank you so much. This has definitely unlocked my soul.
Awesome. I love it.
I definitely feel like there's a weight off my shoulders having this conversation. So thank you so much for giving me the platform to do that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ziyaan. Like I told you, I mean, from a boy to a man. And definitely, he's given me a light bulb moment, which is the young people, the younger generation, don't really consider yourselves leaders of tomorrow, but leaders into tomorrow today. Nice. So if you can do anything, then do it now. Do it today. What's your purpose? What's your reason for living? Why are you here? Why is this important to you? Why do you breathe? I mean, if we haven't learned anything from the last 2 episodes, I don't even know what you're thinking. Next week, I get to host somebody who's just from hiking Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, why? I don't know why. He will tell us the why, because I don't get it. But he did it. We'll be talking to Arpan Grover next week, and he'll be telling us all about Mount Kilimanjaro and those mountains that we are afraid of hiking. We'll be talking about that next week. Remember to stay updated, stay connected with me on social media and Unlock Your Soul podcast on, on TikTok, on Instagram, and every single streaming platform. And also you can email me at unlockyoursoulpodcast@gmail.com for anyone you'd like me to host on the show, or maybe any issue you feel like is important for us to talk about. Till next week, here's a snippet of my conversation with the mountaineer himself, Mr. Arpan Grover.
Coming back to the living in uncertainty, and being comfortable in the uncomfortable, being comfortable in
the
being uncomfortable. Yeah, that is, it's challenging because naturally being uncomfortable is you're overthinking about all these different things. So you have to, at least the way I approach it is, if I notice myself overthinking about things that are making me uncomfortable, I'll stop thinking about it. Like I'll literally just stop. It's better to not think about it and let it, take a toll on your brain. Rather than think about all the things that could go wrong. Because there's always so many things that can go wrong. Even when you're comfortable in comfortable settings. If you start overthinking, like I could think about so many things right now.